All right guys, today I'm gonna walk you through our very first arrangement. Now, I understand this is not normal. We could be doing it in class together and it'd be so much more fun, but I'm gonna try to walk you through as much as I can to make it as interesting and as real to you as possible. Because we're shorter in our time together, I had to kind of condense down my choices for what we picked. Normally we would actually start with something called a bud vase, which is gonna be smaller than what we're actually gonna do today, but the style I'm going with today is pretty similar to it. It's just gonna be larger. So know that this is not truly a absolute beginner piece, but I think it's easy enough that you guys could pull it off. If you wanna get your own materials, I'm gonna walk you through materials in a moment, but we're first gonna start with a sketch on the board. I wanna walk you through the whole process, and I wanna talk to you really quickly about our focuses today, like what is the whole point of it, what's the purpose of the arrangement, and what skills we're gonna be working on the most. So let's get started. This is a picture, a sketch. Don't judge my artwork. This is our vessel today, our vase. In floral terms, we call this an urn vase. I know that's a little like dull and drab, but that's just the style. It's about an 8-inch tall vase, and it's got this skinny flared neck to it, if you will. So it's a bigger opening than a traditional bud vase, but this is not something that is super large and open like 24 rose bouquet or anything like that. So this is called an urn vase. We are working with only one main flower today, one filler, and then I went and cut some greenery out of my backyard because we could not find greenery at Safeway when I went to go get this stuff. So it's gonna be a very simple arrangement, and I do want to focus on one side. So our first key aspect today is that this is gonna be a one-sided arrangement. Only viewed from one side. So think if this was on somebody's desk at work that they're looking at it, maybe this is placed on an entry table, so up against a wall, that side does not need to be held. So we're doing a one-sided arrangement. With that, we need to be aware of the height of the vase. So whatever this height is, we want our tallest point to be 1.5 times the height of the vase. So I'm gonna measure this for 1, and I'm gonna add 1/2, and that is gonna be my tallest point. I'm not gonna go taller than that. And then because of the style of the arrangement I'm doing, I'm going pretty informal, a casual one-sided arrangement. I am only going to be doing kind of like a waterfall arrangement, if you will. So those are my main flowers. So I am gonna use 3, but I'm not placing them in a pyramid. I'm gonna kind of waterfall them. I may actually add a 4th one just to draw the eye so that we're seeing this cascade, if you will. We're gonna start today by putting those main flowers in first. I'm then going to anchor it with the greenery, and I want mostly greenery coming out the edges and then a little bit in the background just for some stability, kind of building that wall, if you will. And then lastly is to add the filler to fill in the gaps. I just want a little bit of accent filler all throughout to fill in the empty spaces. Our actual last step today is making the bow, which is something you all are capable of doing at this point. I'm going to make my bow. It's gonna be all fluffy pom-pom with tails hanging down. And I'm going to insert the bow so that it rests on the lip of the vase. So our wire is like our stem going in. I'm gonna place it so that it would sit right about here. Okay? A couple of other things to note. So we talked about one-sided, we talked about waterfall. Placement of the mass flowers, the main flowers. The other thing that I wanna bring to you is talking about the water and how to manage the water. How long floral design pieces last is really about how well we take care of them. The flowers in the vase have already been cut off their main mother plant. They are officially dying the moment that we've harvested them. So we can't really do anything for them The only thing we can control is the environment that they're placed in, which is the water in the vase. So it's very important that we take care of that. Here's a couple of reasons. As stuff starts to decay and it's sitting in this water, it's gonna mix up together. And that plant is still sucking up water to do its respiration cycle. It is still naturally taking in that water. The longer it sits in the same stagnant water, as it decays, the more bacteria starts to grow and the more it sucks up, which internally bacteria is gonna start to even rot the plant faster. So changing this water out every day with fresh water, or at least every other day, is super important. It will extend the life of our flowers. You may also heard of floral food, the little packets that usually come with your flowers that you would put in this water. Floral food is basically simple sugars, glucose, sucrose, that will help the plant sustain a little bit of extra life and vibrancy in their colors if they're bright colors. The bad news is those sugars also help bacteria grow. So if you're going to use flower food, it is a good thing, but you have to manage the water even more and be careful with it. So if you're using flower food, you should be dumping and changing out the water every day. Lastly, the temperature that this is placed in would also help with water management. So keeping it somewhere in a cool room temperature environment, 60 to 65 degrees preferably. So we're not putting this next to a fireplace or a window that gets a lot of sunlight. We're not putting it in the kitchen next to the oven. We're trying to keep this as natural of like an outdoor. Think about where these things are grown, right? It's in a garden. So the more of a natural environment we can create, the slower the decay process will be and the happier the customer will be because it will last longer. All right? Okay, so to recap real quick before we get started, we're focusing on a one-sided waterfall style arrangement. It is important to manage our water. And then for you guys at home, if you're not going to get supplies on your own to recreate this yourself, which you do not have to do, but I would love to see your photos if you do, everybody should be able to make the bow. So I really want you to focus on bow size. If you were making this arrangement, what would your loop size be? What would be appropriate for this arrangement? And then also just the symmetry of the round, like the end result, the fluffing part. We should be getting round, three-dimensional poofy bows at this point. So keep practicing until you do. All right, let's take a look at our materials. Our materials today, we'll start with what everybody has access to, and that should be bow making material. I decided to go with a neutral bow, being black or white, just because I think they're classy and they go with everything. And it doesn't matter what season we're in, but as we're heading into kind of darker, stormy fall days, I thought it was appropriate. So I've got my wingspan and my tails, my wire, and some scissors to do some trimming. Next up, this is our urn vase I was talking about and trying to show you in our pictures. These are floral shears, and I want to talk about that real quick. Floral shears and scissors are not the same. I know they look the same, but they are not the same. Floral shears are made with a heavier gauge steel. Scissors are, just scissors. But if we use these to cut things like wire or ribbon or paper, we make some major impacts on the blades that are permanent. And then when we go to actually cut flower stems, we are now crushing instead of cutting cleanly. A crushed stem is an injured stem. Think about like if you broke your leg and you did not go to the doctor to get it put into a brace or a cast, it's broken and it can't really help itself heal. This, if I'm using it inappropriately, will break my flowers, which will inhibit its ability to suck up water and nutrients. So please only use floral shears for flower cutting. All right, our main flowers today, these are mini Gerbera daisies. So we're gonna work with those as our main flower. Our filler flower today, this is Status. It's kind of a cool texture and look to it. If you can hear that, it kind of sounds like tissue paper, but it's a really easy flower to grow. And then I got some assorted greenery clippings from my backyard, so I'm gonna see what looks best. There was absolutely no greenery to be purchased when I went to Safeway, so we're gonna see what works and make it happen. All right, I'm gonna get started today with our main flowers. These Gerber daisies are miniature size, but there is a variety of size in the flowers overall. I'm gonna start by making my tallest point and my smallest point, my shortest point. And I would like to use a big flower to anchor the height and not a small one. So I'm gonna start by measuring 1.5 times the height of the vase. It's actually pretty much there. I just need to trim just a little bit. You always want a fresh trim going into the water. That will really make sure that its ability to keep on going is good. Next, I want to do a short one. I want it to just be above the lip of the vase. I want the bow to really be at the actual edge, so this guy needs to stick out above it. So I'm going to start with that. And then I'm just going to start placing waterfall in between. Now, obviously, this is not where it needs to be. We've got a lot of room here, and until I really start shoving in the greenery, it's not going to stay in place, but I at least can get the height, and it'll all come together in the end. So let's keep on going. We don't want anything too close together in height. Otherwise it starts to look like those are too close. Dang it, I might not use that one. Try to have enough variance. Let's see, maybe a little shorter. We'll start with that today and see how that looks. Next, we're gonna do greenery. That will really help anchor these, and then we'll do filler. Got lots of options for greenery. If I could have found greenery at the store, here's what I would have been looking for. I would have loved leatherleaf fern, salal, or broadleaf eucalyptus. Those three would have been my plan. So if you're gonna do this from the grocery store, look for leatherleaf fern, salal, or eucalyptus. If you can't find Gerber daisies at this point, this was kind of actually a rare find. I would have easily just gone with carnations or even roses. Those can be found almost year round. But really up to you. I just wanted something in this range of a size. I don't want to go big. I don't want sunflowers. That's way too big at this point. But I did want a mass flower, just a single bloom. All right. To help out with water management today, I am doing naked stems in the water. So I'm trimming off any extra leaves or any extra little branch pieces to hopefully slow down the decay process. Super important to do that. Keeps it fresher longer, makes everybody happy. So, naked stems in the water. We're doing a one-sided arrangement, so I'm starting to build a wall in the back, and then I will work towards the front. I want a little bit of greenery around the edges to kind of anchor in my design. All right, now it's time to add filler. I've got my greenery in the back, I've anchored it in the front, and then I have adjusted my main flowers back to the waterfall placement I want. Most of them are staying in place at this point, but if you do need this help, plus there are some empty gaps anyways. And I chose this color to kind of lighten the design up a little bit. So it is still pretty much a fall arrangement, but it's nice to have a little bit of brightness, especially since I'm also gonna be doing a black bow. So to help with placement, I'm gonna weave and adjust as needed. The other cool thing we can be doing is if I like where this is placed, but I feel like it's too much, like I don't like where this one is going necessarily, I can come in and cut it from the main stem. I call it giving it a haircut. So you're not changing the entire stem itself, but you're just getting rid of one piece that you may not like. Most of the time filler has lots of little shoots to choose from, and sometimes it's just too much, like this piece for instance. It's a lot going on. So number one, I would separate into two pieces, but then as I go, maybe I only want the center piece, I could cut these two off from the main stem. It's all up to you and customizing. Still doing naked stems in the water. Try to keep it as clean as possible. I'm really liking how that's going. I really just want one more there and a short one down here, and then I'm ready to go. Remember, lots of us like filler, especially once you guys start doing this on your own. It's really easy to get carried away with filler though. The filler is the support to the mains. So it needs to look good, but it should not overdo and overtake them. So I may need to come in and trim out just a smidge of that. We'll see how this goes. At this point, I'm really liking how that's coming together, but I am gonna cut this guy off. That guy's a little too much. So I'm finding the point where it joins in with the main stem and I'm removing it. I'm gonna interweave those a little bit more. And I think we're good to go. I'm gonna be placing my bow right here on this lip. I'm gonna leave that leaf just because I like it. So I'm gonna make our bow and then I'll be right back. Okay, so really quickly, here's a recap on bow, just a reminder. The size of the loop that I have made is appropriate to the size of the arrangement. It adds to it. It's definitely filling up this space. These tails are a little long, but they are not touching the table, so I'm gonna leave them. I like long tails as long as they're not overdone. But I do have this poofy round shape. It's not flat, it's not pinched. It really helps kind of anchor everything down, and I try to line it in the center as much as possible. All right, so with that, we've created a one-sided waterfall arrangement. We've evenly spaced out our main mass flowers and our filler. Our greenery is building up our background wall and our anchoring support, and our bow is also adding to that and finishing off the look. A quick overview of our costs involved in this arrangement. The vase was purchased from the Dollar Tree, so it is only $1. The Gerber daisies I bought in a bunch at Safeway for $5.99. I used about half of the bunch though, so you'll want to divide that cost in half. The same thing for the status, also from Safeway, but the bunch price was $4.99. But I also, again, used half of the bunch for the arrangement. My greenery today was free because I collected it from my own backyard, but we normally would have purchased that, so I'm gonna put a value today of $2.99 for all of our greenery. We also have a wire and bow material included in this cost. I would value that at $1 total.